In this video, we will continue learning about significant digits with a discussion of the rules for adding and subtracting quantities involving significant digits. When quantities are being added or subtracted, the number of decimal places, not significant digits, in the answer should be the same as the least number of decimal places in any of the numbers being added or subtracted. What do we mean by decimal places? For example, 10 is a whole number and has 0 decimal places. 4.5 has 1 decimal place, and 2.657 has 3 decimal places. Let's apply this rule in some examples, but first we will quickly review some rules for rounding. Rule number 1. When the first digit to be dropped is 4 or less, the last digit retained should not be changed. For example, 3.14159 rounded to 2 decimal places is 3.14. 5.61 rounded to 1 decimal place is 5.6. And 4.31212 rounded to 3 decimal places is 4.312. Rule number 2. When the first digit to be dropped is greater than 5, or if it is a 5, followed by at least one digit other than 0, the last digit retained is increased by 1 unit. For example, 2.341689 rounded to 4 decimal places is 2.3417. 3.457 rounded to 1 decimal place is 3.5. Rule number 3. When the first digit to be dropped is a 5 that is followed by only zeros, the last digit retained is increased by 1 if it is odd, but not changed if it is even. For example, 6.35 rounded to 1 decimal place is 6.4. This is because there's nothing after the 5, and the last digit retained is a 3, which is odd, so we round by increasing it by 1. As another example, 1.450 rounded to 1 decimal place is 1.4. This is because there's a 0 after the 5, and the last digit retained is a 4, which is even, so according to the rule, we leave it unchanged. Now that we've reviewed rounding, let's do some examples with significant digits. When adding 4.15 and 2.3, the output from your calculator would tell you that the answer is 6.45, which is technically correct. However, 4.15 has 2 decimal places, and 2.3 has 1 decimal place. So our final answer should be rounded to 1 decimal place. Because the first digit to be dropped is a 5, and there is nothing after it, we use the third rounding rule, which states that the last digit retained is kept the same if it is even. So the final answer is 6.4. As another example, when subtracting 6.3444 and 1.532, the output from the calculator would tell you that the answer is 4.8124, which is technically correct. However, 6.3444 has 4 decimal places and 1.532 has 3 decimal places. So our final answer should be rounded to 3 decimal places. Because the first digit to be dropped is a 4, we use the first rule, so the final answer is 4.812. As another example, when subtracting 7.854 and 3.12831, the output from the calculator would tell you that the answer is 4.72569, which again is technically correct. However, 7.854 has 3 decimal places, and 3.12831 has 5 decimal places. So our final answer should be rounded to 3 decimal places. Because the first digit to be dropped is a 6, we use the second rule, so the final answer is 4.726. For the next example, let's calculate 12.1 minus 6.22 plus 4.0. The output from the calculator would tell you that the answer is 9.88, which is technically correct, but 12.1 has 1 decimal place, 6.22 has 2 decimal places, and 4.0 has 1 decimal place, so our final answer should be rounded to 1 decimal place. Because the first digit to be dropped is an 8, we use the second rule, so the final answer is 9.9. In the final example, consider 45 plus 22 plus 0.44. The output from the calculator would tell you that the answer is 67.44, which is correct. But because 45 and 22 are whole numbers with 0 decimal places, the final answer should also be rounded to 0 decimal places, or the nearest whole number. Because the first digit to be dropped is a 4, we use the first rule, so the final answer is 67. And that concludes our video on adding and subtracting with significant digits. Have a question? Leave it in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to this channel for more.